April 9th, the 21st day of our lockdown, our COVID lockdown here in Syracuse. I know you probably all are locked down too. I hope you're finding interesting things to do, and I hope you're taking this opportunity maybe to learn a little bit about how we can enhance our health. And why is that important? Well, today we're going to talk about the question of who dies from COVID-19. There's some, interesting research they're starting to pool together, looking at the data from China, the data from the United States and Europe, about who actually dies from this flu. And there was an interesting article published the day before yesterday in the Medium, which says why coronavirus is making young Americans really sick. And this was done by Dana Smith. Traditionally, we think of flu that something affects older people. And we certainly encourage older people to get flu shots because that's the vulnerable population. Now they're seeing with this COVID-19 that actually many young people are getting infected with this virus. In fact, 12% of all the cases that have been documented in the US are people between 20 and 44. And 18% of those admitted to hospitals, in other words, those that have gotten a serious repercussion from this infection, 18% of those admitted to hospitals in the U.S. are between 20 and 44 years of age. And there's very similar data from Spain. So it's looking like young people are being hit quite hard. And the question is why? And what we find out, what the analysis now is that the emerging new evidence suggests that what matters more than age are pre-existing conditions. Existing conditions that are detrimental to a person's health, diseases or unhealthy statuses that make a person vulnerable, that makes the host more hospitable to this virus that's going around and looking for a great place to live. According to the CDC, this is March 31st, 73% of people hospitalized for COVID had at least one pre-existing condition. And we're going to talk in a minute about what those conditions are. Even more importantly, 94% of all the people who died from the COVID virus had underlying chronic illness, most of them being diabetes, chronic lung heart disease, severe pneumonia, and actually cardiac situations. This was true for China as well as for the US as well as for Europe. And we're also discovering that certain medications like these ACE inhibitors or steroid drugs make a person more vulnerable to COVID. Also, a new finding is that there are many cardiovascular implications, and obesity, particularly obesity tied to diabetes, is a very serious situation. And you might have heard that some of our ethnic populations, particularly the Afro-Americans, are suffering more from this disorder because of greater tendency to have diabetes. So my very point in the beginning was now we are waking up to the issue that we maybe should really grab the bull by the horns, and if we have like diabetes, begin to take steps to correct that diabetes. Certainly diabetes, adult onset diabetes, has been shown to be amenable to correction, a great correction with lifestyle, exercise, and nutrition. But these have to be like whole family programs. People have to work together. And for all other health problems, certainly with bone health, we've seen many people regenerate bone health. They just dive right in, look for the causes of their bone loss, do every single step from exercise to an alkaline diet to stress reduction to getting all those 20, 30 key bone nutrients, pH balance. These people have regenerated bone health. You can certainly regenerate health. Sometimes it takes a bit of work, but maybe we're all going to start thinking about this when we find that young people are having these pre-existing conditions that are causing them to be more vulnerable to COVID. I'd like to see this as a new age. We're kind of been kicked all into a new age, and this is the new age of personal health optimization. When I talk with my clients, I always like to say, no one cares about your health as much as you do. And while we like to rely on others and depend on our doctors, it's also time we step up and say, how can I change my diet? How can I change my lifestyle? How can I get more exercise? How can I even do with my attitudes and my perspectives that are limiting my health? COVID is a great chance for all of us to begin thinking, looking into those little health problems and seeing how we can work to improve them. Pre-existing conditions are one of the big causes of vulnerability in this disorder. And we're going to learn a lot over time. Who gets this virus, who doesn't get the virus, who dies from the virus. Right now, the deaths in the U.S. are about 16,000. We've done a pretty good job of controlling that. When you think of the average flu, last year killed 80,000 people, and we had a vaccine for that. Now we don't have any vaccine, and we're really trying to restrict exposure because, in a sense, everyone is vulnerable to catching this virus, which spreads very quickly. However, we're going to find out probably not everyone is vulnerable. We're now developing tests for antibodies that they can actually see, have you been exposed to the virus? Have you developed a resistance to it? All this will come along very soon. Some of the doctors I work with are talking about antibodies that are almost on the market now. So it's going to lead to a great advance in science. And I hope in each of our lives we think of how might this crisis add to an advance in our life. I know in my case, I'm really questioning, hey, should I slow down a bit? Should I take it a little easier? Is everything I do really so urgent? Should I maybe pay a little bit more attention to the interactions as they go along and not be always anticipating the future? Living more in the present moment is what I mean to say. And also taking more care with my diet, with my friend's diet, taking better care of my family. So that's the story on COVID for today. Things are, I hope we're reaching the peak soon, but I still, for myself and all of us, I say we need to keep our social isolation and our spiritual unity together. We're going to start tomorrow answering questions on bone health. There's been a lot of questions on bone health and many, many questions on COVID and a lot of questions on vitamin C. Let me just tell you that vitamin C is a simple thing. It's an important nutrient. It really, under times of stress, under times of infection, we use much more of it. That's clearly documented. We're suggesting here 3 to 5, 6, 7 grams a day, as much as you can take without getting a loose stool, will really help your resistance to this flu. In the meantime, remember all the nutrients, zinc, selenium, all the nutrients that we talk about, certainly magnesium, that we talk about in our protocol. In our protocol of supplements to help resist this virus is on Alkaline for Life, so you might look it up. In the meantime, in betterbones.com, we are writing about alkalizing water. If you have interest in really distinguishing which waters actually alkalize and which don't, I've written a nice blog on alkaline water. That's in betterbones.com, coming right up. And we're going to be also talking on Alkaline Life about the acidification of the ocean. We're going to tie the acidification of the human body in with the acidification of the air in the oceans. So keep tuned with us. We're pedaling as fast as we can at both Alkaline for Life and Better Bones to bring the new information about how we can help our planet flourish and how each of us can flourish in this very challenging time. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned.